is my disability is progressive. So in the span of, to give you an idea really quick, is at the age of 5, I was able to utilize both of my hands, pushing myself in a manual wheelchair. Fast forward to 10 years later, which is a whole decade, at the age of 15, I no longer have the mobility and the strength to push myself in a manual wheelchair, where I then had to be in a powerized wheelchair. Fast forward to another decade later, which is another 10 years, which is me present time, at the age of 25, I still am in a powerized wheelchair. However, back to what I was saying, my disability is progressive. My SMA is progressive. I didn't struggle with neck support before. I'm starting to struggle with it now. I didn't struggle with chewing, swallowing, eating. I am beginning to struggle with it now. I do have my good days, I do have my bad days, and there are some days that are just not the greatest. And that comes with the daily challenges and the uncertainties of living with SMA. And because I have not only these experiences, but because I am able to think about and see where I was to where I currently am, I can only imagine what's going to happen within the next decade. Am I going to, because I'm on this trend of declining when it comes to when it comes to a decade, when it comes to 10 years. I'm not progressing. And until there is a cure, until there is a much more advancement for treatments with SMA, then that's going to be a whole different conversation, a whole different topic, and then I'll be able to think a little bit more optimistically. But at this current state and this current rate that I am currently on, this current track record, you could say, is I can only imagine where I'll be within the next 10 years. And because I have that in mind, I have this sense of urgency that I have to do what I can with where I am with as much as I can. I have to take advantage of this opportunity while I can, because if I don't, then I can only imagine, just having that thought of I won't go too in depth because I don't want to get emotional here, but having that thought of like being a vegetable and having that thought of like, what if? Or Vic, why didn't you push yourself harder? Or why did you slow down when you knew you could have kept going? Or I want to eliminate that thought of what if. So the reason why I do what I do is because I feel like I'm on this clock. There's a sense of urgency. I have to make sure that if I can create this plan of mine, by getting my name out there, I can build this business, this personal brand, build other businesses and companies behind it as well. And I'm able to write a book and sell copies, and make money where I'm comfortable. Then I know if I were to happen to turn into a vegetable meaning I'm not able to feed myself, not able to brush my teeth, I might not even be able to pick up my phone or let alone deal with a computer. And those are some very scary thoughts. It's not the easiest to have lurking in your thoughts, to be occurring in your thoughts. It's not the easiest thing to really deal with. And it's not so much you're thinking about them, it's because you know it's to come. Again, if there's no advancements or treatments or cure within the next decade or within my lifetime, to say. And if I am able to do these things, I know that if such event were to take place or such experience were to take place, I know my needs are taken care of. I know I will have the money, the financial resources to get the caregivers that are going to be needed, maybe even the nurse needed, certain medications needed, because if you really pay attention now, some people need certain medications or treatments or surgeries or whatever, and their insurance doesn't cover it. And they either can't afford it, so they're stuck with being left without it, or they're drowning in financial debt. And then that financial debt carries on to their family. I don't want to leave that burden to those around me. So I want to be able to put myself in a position where if certain things were needed that I needed, I know I have the financial resources to do so. Vic, you need a nurse now. It's that time. Okay, let's do it. Vic, you need uh, maybe a respiratory therapist that needs to be with you 24/7 now. Okay, let's do it. I don't want to have that thought of how much is it going to be. Will my insurance cover it? If my insurance covers it, great. If my insurance doesn't, I want to be in that position to be like, okay, what who do we have to contact, or where can we start having people send in their applications, and I want to have that sense of control as to paying you more than what is expected. I want to be able to take care of you. If you are loyal to me, you take care of me, and I see it, and I don't see no malicious intentions or some unhealthy motives behind your actions. Like, you feel genuine, you are loyal to me, you're great. Best believe you take care of me, I am going to take care of you too. I want to have that sense of control, and it comes even bigger than that. My mother's getting older. Who's going to take care of her? Is she going to be in a nursing home? Is my siblings going to take care of her? Because me being in my state, I can't. So thoughts like that appear as well, along with like thinking about my tias and thinking about certain people as well. And I want to be able to have the financial opportunity, availability to eliminate that stress and worry, not just for myself, but for those around me as well. Don't worry about it. It's taken care of. Again, touching on, talking about my mom, for example. They say she needs medical treatment and her insurance doesn't cover it. Don't worry about it, Mom. I got it. Tyler Perry said it in his documentary. It was called Maxine's Baby. And he talked about his mom. And I'll never forget what he said. He says his mom ended up going blind. She fell ill, and she was at Tyler Perry's grand opening. I believe it was for when he opened up Tyler Perry Studios, and it was this big grand event that Tyler Perry was opening, and a lot of celebrities and people came. It was a red carpet event, and he said his mom. He was with his mom, and his mom looked to him and said, "Son, everything is beautiful." And he said, "How do you know that? Like, you can't see." And she said, "Because I can feel it." But he said that his mom told him, I can't remember if it was either that event or within the past or what. But he said, but she had told him, "Thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to afford my medication." So when you think about like a grand scale like that, you have to prepare for the future. You have to expect the unexpected, and literally, if you have the opportunity to make certain things happen, make it happen. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like me, yes, I have a progressive disability. It's not the greatest. Obviously, there's a lot more to my story that I haven't shared, some of it I even won't ever share, and for a variety of reasons. So having that in mind is that, yes, back to what I was saying, is if having a progressive disability is not the greatest, I could fall into poor me, I can't do anything, and feel sorry for myself, and it's going to get me nowhere, right? And I'm only going to stay in this depressive state that I'm already in. So the way I see it is, when there is no light, because there are going to be moments in your life where there isn't going to be light. And if you're one who doesn't experience rock bottom, and I mean rock bottom, I'm happy that you don't, and I hope you don't, because it's a very ugly place, it's a very scary place, and it is very, not many people make it out of those dark places. So if you are in a dark place, keep the faith, find something to help you find that light within. So no matter where it is you go, no matter how dark of valleys you walk through or you go through, you always have a spark of light. And if you can build your relationship with God, I can assure you, you will have an endless supply of this divine light that will never go out. But you have to build your relationship with a higher power. For me, it's God. For me, it's Jesus. You have to build your relationship with a higher power so that way you always have an endless supply of this divine light that never goes out. I don't trust where you are taking me. I don't know why you are putting me through this, but I trust where you are guiding me and trying to help me get through. May you please deliver me the strength to endure and persevere so I can see what you have predestined for me up ahead. Continue to put one foot in front of the other. That is all it takes. I wanted to mention that really quick. Forgive me, I got emotional. That's why I don't talk about certain things because it's not an easy topic, an easy conversation to talk about. It really isn't. So I graduated high school in 2017, receiving my high school diploma. That was a whole experience as well. I was in the hospital with I was in the ICU at that time during my graduation ceremony, and fortunately for me, by some miracle, I was able to attend my high school graduation ceremony by having Valley Children's Hospital form an entire medical team, having my respiratory therapist, a nurse, every medical team that I needed to go on to be on a transport team, forming a transport team, so I could attend my high school graduation ceremony. I was hooked up to oxygen when I attended my high school graduation ceremony. They had an ambulance. They had the Valley Children's Hospital ambulance very nearby, just in case I collapsed. To give you, I have talked about this in the history of this channel before, but to give you an idea as to more of a visualization of how I was currently feeling, is normal stats. Your maximum oxygen stats is 100. And for me, it's like 96 to 98, just because of my scoliosis, the way my lungs are formed, and along with my SMA. It's like 96 to 100. It's 96 to 98. And on a very, very good day, I will top out at 100. To give you an idea of how I was feeling this day of my graduation, literally sitting during my high school graduation ceremony. Again, I'm hooked up on oxygen. I have the oxygen thing on my fingers, and I even have the oxygen on my nose. And to give an idea, is I was statting my in 60s, and I would sometimes drop below that. And if I can remember correctly, I do believe I would drop slightly under 50. And my RT, a really, really good friend of mine, that I still have, that I built a relationship with after I graduated as well. We kept in touch. Really, really good, amazing people. And anyhow, she told me she knew how much this moment meant to me, meant to my twin sister as well, because I am a twin, so we got to graduate together. She knew how much this moment meant to me, my twin sister, my family, my mother. She knew how much it meant to all of us. My grandmother, she knew how much it meant. So she wanted me to experience this moment as much as I could, and along with everybody involved within Valley Children's Hospital, especially the VP, for making it even possible for me to attend my high school graduation ceremony, because I wasn't in the best shape. And so for me to be able to attend my high school graduation, that alone was an experience. And I was just very fortunate enough that I was able to attend my high school graduation. And once it was done, before all of this, Tia Marty told me, she was like, please, I cannot remember word for word, but it was along the lines of, please, if you are feeling a particular way, if you feel like you need to go back to the hospital, please do not hesitate. We don't want you to collapse here in the middle of the ceremony. And me being me, yeah, of course, absolutely. Like if I feel a particular way, I will let you know. Like, don't worry, I'm okay. And she had the oxygen numbers behind my wheelchair, and she was like standing near me, like a few feet away from me, so I can be with my class graduates and everything. and she was able to see what my CO2 stats were. And she told me right after the ceremony, she was like, if you went below, I forgot what number it was. I don't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I didn't drop below 50, but because dropping below 50 is quite significant. But she was like, if you dropped below a certain number, she was like, that was my drawing point. Like I would have pulled you out, and she would have been sorry that she would have had to do so. But fortunately, it didn't lead to that, and everything turned out really good. And after I rolled on stage with my twin sister behind my chair, received my high school diploma, and I got to finish the entire thing. I unfortunately wasn't able to go outside and get that whole graduation experience by going outside, taking pictures with classmates, and doing any of that. But I was just very fortunate and grateful enough that I was, excuse me, I was very fortunate and grateful enough that I was even able to attend just a high school graduation ceremony. And something too I want to express my gratitude for too is my high school, my principal at the time, he heard about me being in the ICU, he heard about my circumstance, and he was even looking into, can we do a live stream by having me into the hospital, receiving my high school diploma beforehand, and having somebody hand deliver me my high school diploma when it was that time to do so. An amazing principal, God rest his soul, and yeah, I wanted to mention that really quickly as well. So because of my high school experience, nearly all 4 years of my high school experience, I missed roughly 50 to 60% of it just because I always had a pneumonia and a collapsed lungs, and I had to be on home studies because if I didn't, I most likely wouldn't have graduated. So because I had a high school experience, I knew once I attended college, I went to all of my teachers, professors, way in advance, like literally the first week of school, even like the first day of, I think it was like the first 2 days of school, going to all my teachers and professors and was like, hey, I am so and so. And they were like, yeah, we seen your chart, we know you have a medical condition. And I told them, most likely, I was like, I'm not being negative here. I was like, just from personal experience, roughly November to December, I may end up in the hospital with a pneumonia and a collapsed lungs. I just want you to know that if I happen to not appear in class, randomly, it's most likely because I am in the hospital. And of course, when I have the opportunity to, I will email you and update you on my situation. And all of them said, don't worry about it. We will cross that bridge when we cross it. And unfortunately, we did have to cross that bridge. And my first semester was a complete waste of my time. I won't say a complete waste of my time because I did have the experience of like attending community college, and I did have the experience of meeting certain people, building relationships that I still keep in contact with today. So I won't say it was 100% entirely a waste of time, but it was unfortunate that it almost was a waste of time, if that makes any sense. So second semester ended up doing online courses. I personally didn't like it and decided to seek the purpose in life's happenings, and see where life was willing to take me. I was on a psychiatric hold. The first time I was placed 5150 on a psychiatric hold. Second time I just needed help with sleep because so much was going through my mind. I couldn't sleep. I became delusional, and I was awake for like 4 to 5 days straight. Literally like 4 to 5 days straight. And then the third time that I went into the hospital, they placed me on I was completely coherent, fine. I couldn't sleep again because so many different things were going on through my mind. I will touch a lot more with that experience when I do write a book, because I have to be more mindful with my choice of words when it comes to that. I don't want to mislead anybody. But within the third experience is I was coherent, I was calm, I was respectful. I wasn't the same person that I was when I had went into the hospital for the first experience when I was placed 5150, being placed on a psychiatric hold. That made a lot of sense because of my current state and certain things that I was doing and saying. It did make sense to place me rightfully on a 5150 psychiatric hold. However, back to what I was saying on the third experience, it was on the third experience. I was placed 5150, almost being shipped to a psychiatric hospital just because of my first experience. When the third time I went into the hospital, I had no first experience symptoms such as anger, frustration, hostility. Um, I wasn't. I was no threat. Again, compared to the first one. So the reason why I was placed on the 5150 the third time is because of my first experience. I will never forget this. I'm laying in bed and I'm trying to see my mom. Nobody will let me see mom, family. I was completely all by myself in the hallway. And all I see is security walk up to the side of my bed. They don't say anything. And I look over to them and I ask him. I was like, "Excuse me." I was like, "Are you here for me?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Why?" And he says, "You were just placed on 5150." And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "By who?" And he told me the name, and I knew who they were, which was my psychiatrist at the time. And I didn't say anything else. I was just thinking, what's going on behind the scenes? Because nobody was telling me anything. Again, I wasn't hostile. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated. I was very respectful. I talked to everybody by their first name: nurse, janitor, security, everybody that happened to be going across the hall or happened to pass me or happened to be assigned to my hospitalization. I was very respectful, and I would talk to them on a first name basis, or the name that they approached me with. "You are Doctor So and So. That is who I called you. You're Nurse So and So. That is who I called you." Whoever you were, I was very respectful. So third time I was placed on 5150 was absolutely uncalled for, ridiculous, and I think it was just somebody who I'll just keep those thoughts to myself. But a very scary experience. But obviously everything worked out for the best. I personally am more spiritual than I am religious. However, I do study many religious practices in other cultures: Christianity, Catholicism, Hinduism. I study a lot of different spiritual people, and helps me. But I can say by this divine intervention is that I will I cannot find the right words for it till this day. I still can't. But there was this divine intervention of an experience where all I can say is Jesus saves. And because Jesus saved my life, if Jesus did not save my life, I wouldn't be here today. But because there was this divine intervention that, again, I still till this day cannot fathom nor put into words, I am the person that you see here today, doing the things that I am doing today. And without Jesus, Jesus has became my guide, my light, and his Father, who is the ultimate divine, the Most High, has helped me significantly. When you are really in a depressive state, something that can help you significantly is become very mindful with the content that you engage on social media. Because algorithm will probably change later, but I'm sure it will always stay somewhat the same in terms of what I am about to say here when it comes to the algorithm. Is be very mindful with the content that you engage with, the content that you watch, the content that you like, the content that you comment on, the content that you share. Because the more you engage with that type of content, the more social media is going to put it in front of you whenever you go on their platform. For me, I am very mindful with the type of content that I engage with, the type of content that I even watch, because I want to be mindful. I want to show the algorithm I am not interested in this toxicity. I'm not interested in seeing fights. I'm not interested in seeing people talking about depressive states. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in something positive. How can I get through what I'm going through? A certain I engage in affirmations. I engage in positive content. I engage in things that is going to benefit overall my mental health. I engage with those kinds of content. Anything else I disregard, and if something is really really important where it does deserve my attention, it will be brought to my attention, and I came to the realization of that. So become very when you are in a very depressive state, and you really really want to get out of it, like you really want to, and you really really want to do something, you will find a way to do it. However, when it's ethical, don't be careless and reckless with your actions, because then you are just digging a bigger hole for yourself. If you really want to crawl out of this hole you are in, if you really want to fly a new altitude, you want to reach new heights, you want to see better, you have to start making changes within your daily routines to help you get through what it is you are going through. If you want a depressive state, metaphorically speaking, if you want a depressive state, do not surround yourself with those who are drowning. Again, metaphorically speaking, surround yourselves with those who learned how to swim. Again, metaphorically speaking. The thing I learned very early on within my life, especially when I look up to certain people who are living a lifestyle that I aspire. Steve Harvey is the first person that came to mind, and there's many many others as well. But Steve Harvey was one of the first people to come to mind. Is the thing I learned very early on is the reason why I personally don't like to share too much of my dreams or my aspirations, or talk about much as to why I am doing this, or hey, I'm going to do this, or this is what I'm doing. The reason why I don't do that is because sometimes, not everything, but sometimes, especially early on in the very beginning stages, you really don't know what it is you're doing. And I learned that if you go out and tell people, hey, this is what I'm going to do. When I say tell people, I'm talking about you share your idea or this dream or aspiration or this good thought, of this thing that you want to do, and you share with somebody who isn't living that lifestyle. They're unfamiliar with it. So for them, it's going to come for them, not all, but a lot of the people that you may tell those dreams and aspirations to, or you trust with your words, they may not be able to understand you. And because they don't understand you, they may throw doubts in front of your face, or they may talk behind your back like, oh, he's not going to make it, or he's not going to do it, or we all have those dreams. Everybody has dreams. Everybody wants to do these things when they are your age. But somewhere along the line they gave up. And me personally, I learned that very early on, and which is why I personally rather keep my mouth shut. I rather be patient, keep my head down, work on whatever it is I gotta work on, and when asked, regardless of who it is, if I know they have genuine connection, if I know they have genuine interest, or they have, regardless of who you are, if you ask me, hey, what is it that you're doing? 9 out of 10 times, I won't tell you. I will just say I'm working on my personal brand, or I will share what it is that I already have publicly. I will share with you what it is I put in front of you, meaning Victortheinspiration, for example, my website, for example. And I do that for a reason, personally, because again, in the very beginning stages, you really, a lot of times you really don't know what you're doing in the very, very beginning. But once, of course, you persist, you endure a lot, you learn as you go, you study, you read books, you take courses, you study from those people who are living the lifestyle that you aspire. Study those people, and eventually at one point, you're going to be able to reflect back and see why everything happened the way it did. And most importantly, those around you are going to be so astonished to what it is you did. Like they had no idea you were doing this. Yeah, they may have somewhat of an idea to what you were doing or working on, but nobody was able to predict like you did this grand thing on a big scale. And for me, something I want to mention really quickly before I continue this video is the reason why I personally like to keep my mouth shut and I personally like to remain patient um, and humbled within the process is because one, when you keep your mouth shut, nobody. When you keep your mouth shut, you don't share your plans with anybody. They cannot ruin it. They can't feed you self-doubt. They can't feed certain negative thoughts into your mind because they don't know where to begin, right? Because you don't give them that opportunity to do so. So it protects you. When you are going through this thing, you also remain humbled because while you're, say, at a dinner table or celebrating somebody else's achievement, it keeps you humbled. Don't feel like just because you were doing this and that, don't feel like you have to one up them or don't feel like you have to boast or brag about what you two are doing. It keeps you humbled when you are able to keep your mouth shut. You're able to just, again, share what it is that you want to share. I will end this conversation here by saying, and something that I wanted to touch on is more so for me. The reason why I personally like to keep my head down, I like to stay quiet a lot. I like to be private with a lot of stuff I'm doing. What I'm doing is immensely good. It's for really, really good reason, with the good intentions. Not just for myself, but for a lot of people as well. And doing something on that scale, more so when you have a progressive disability such as mine, it's much harder, it's much more difficult because nobody has done what you are working towards, or not to the extent that you are going to do certain things. And because of that, you have to be very mindful with what you choose to say within the process. And I will end it there, but I will end this short conversation with one of my favorite sayings, which is, in a world full of stairs, create your own trails.